So as we know, Trump, our president, has implemented tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico, and it's going to impact the consumers. So for us on the KB Money Show, we want to focus on the facts around it, the context, the understanding. President Donald Trump is imposing a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on China starting today. Today is the first. Tariffs will likely result in higher prices for U.S. consumers, both directly and indirectly, economists say. A lot of people have a lot of emotion around that, and it's on both sides. They're just fighting, 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 fighting. How do we stay neutral just to understand what the facts are and then how we can navigate accordingly? Tariffs are a tax on foreign imports that are paid by the U.S. businesses importing those products. The businesses will likely pass those costs to customers, economists said. Okay, so I have it queued up. I went to Investopedia for us on what is a tariff.
Right. All right.
So before we start jumping, oh my God, Trump, evil man, Batman. I don't care one way or the other about that. What First of all, my mind goes, okay, I remember learning about tariffs back in the day when, in econ and all this. Let's just learn about what a tariff is without the emotions. We're not going to read all this. We're just going to hit some high points for understanding, and you can go and do your own research to dig deeper. This is what I want to train our community to learn how to do is have your feelings, put a pin in the feelings, but then now let's go truly look to understand what is this? What does it mean? Actually, not speculation, not TikTok, not all these different YouTube channels, not something somebody said on Meta, like not something somebody text you, not something someone had a conversation with you in passing.
Right.
What are the facts? Okay. A tariff is a type of tax levied by a country on imported goods at the border. Historically, tariffs have been used by governments to collect additional revenue, but they are also a way of governments to try to protect domestic producers. As a protectionist tool, a tariff increases the prices of imports. Due to that, consumers may choose to buy other, relatively less expensive domestic goods instead. So just let's go through the key takeaways there to remember. Tariffs are duties on imports imposed by governments to raise revenue, protect domestic industries, or exert political leverage over another country. Understand just because Trump is talking about tariffs, this has been going on. It's a little bit more polarizing because it's Trump, and it seems like there's a lot of divisiveness around that. Hey, this is our president now. We got to rally around our president. We got to trust that he's making the right decisions, and even when he don't, hey, let's hold him accountable. But at the end of the day, let's hold our household accountable for the things that we can control. Tariffs often result in unwanted side effects, such as higher consumer prices. So, yes, there's a possibility that it will impact us. Tariffs have a long and contentious history, controversial, and the debate over whether they represent good or bad policy rages on this day. And this talks about. So I want to the reason for tariffs. I want to scroll down for that so folks can understand. Governments may impose tariffs to raise revenue or protect domestic industries, especially nascent ones, from foreign competition. By making
Mm.
foreign produced goods more expensive, tariffs can make domestically produced alternatives more attractive. Governments that use tariffs to benefit particular industries often do so to protect companies and jobs. Companies and jobs in your
Mm.
particular local country. Companies and jobs. Pay attention. Listen, listen. Tariffs can also be used as an extension of foreign policy. Imposing tariffs on a trading partner's main exports is a way to exert economic leverage. Okay, let's not pretend. There are side effects that we need to understand. We just talking about the facts right now. We just talking about the facts on what are the possibilities here.
Right.
They can make domestic industries less efficient and innovative by reducing competition.
Interesting.
They can hurt domestic customers since a lack of competition tends to push up prices.
Okay.
That's the part that people, are talking about right now. They can also generate tensions by favoring certain industries or geographic regions over others. We learned this together. When used to pressure a rival country, a relationship can devolve into an unproductive cycle of retaliation, sometimes known as trade wars. Have you heard that before?
I have.
All right, so let's just look at the example. For example, tariffs designed to help manufacturers in cities may hurt consumers in rural areas who do not benefit from the policy and are likely to pay more for manufactured goods. Okay, so it said fast fact: governments assess tariffs based on what's needed to protect domestic industries, address trade imbalances. That's what Trump has been talking about. He's been talking about protecting domestic industries, and he's also been talking about some trade imbalances that we have as a country in relationship to other countries, or
Right.
respond to unfair trade practices. And he's been talking about that one as well. So those are the three that he's been talking about on why he's implementing these tariffs. I'm not defending Trump, just putting that out there. I'm just telling you, like, I'm just being crazy objective. Like, I'm like, hey, just navigating it. Who is most impacted by tariffs? I'm gonna leave that for you to read. Go to Investopedia. I'm not about to read all that. But I just wanted us to start approaching things from what are the facts. So we have a headline. Now it's
Mm,
time to figure out what are the facts about the headline.
right.
Because it ties back to our first segment of what are the stories we're telling ourselves. Because sometimes you'll see a headline, then you start telling yourself a whole bunch of stories, or you're listening to other people tell you a story and you believe his story,
Mm,
but it's not necessarily his story per
right.
se. And so you don't want to be swept up in someone's stories. Like, go and look, one or two go steps further to understand what this is, so you can kind of put your critical thinking hat on it. Like, okay, all the noise, what does this actually mean? Like, oh yeah, no, these terrorists will impact us. And then the next question probably should be, all right, well, to what degree?
Mm,
Are we talking an extra $50 a month? Are we talking, is this gonna, because when people say, oh, it's gonna impact things, you're thinking, oh snap. So I mean that means everything is gonna go up like hyperinflate, like everything is it's gonna be an extra 5 grand in my budget every month that I already don't have. Like it goes from the headline to like that extreme, and it's like any increase, if you're already in a financial crunch, is you're gonna feel something, right? But like
right.
we have to anchor ourselves back to what are the facts. When you hear all of that, now break it down from the Ivy League perspective, just your perspective, as you heard everything that I read to you.
I don't want to call them a buzzword, but tariff is definitely like a hot topic right now, and definitely something that is. I think it does deserve some examination. I think, like you said, we should
For
all
sure.
just look into these things and just look at, from like I was saying earlier, we need to be able to focus on home base and figure out, make it practical and personal for me. are any products that I like going to be impacted? Like for instance, like it doesn't make sense to panic over it. It makes sense to plan over it though. Like I saw like, and I don't know if this was fact checked or anything, but like one product listed was like avocados. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to pay an extra 25% for the avocados. Either that or change who I get it from. But I mean I saw a story on I don't really be on X like that, but yesterday I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it out. I haven't been on it in a while. I picked the worst day to hop on. Cause I got like a fresh X account. Don't follow nobody. Don't really have too many likes. So I guess the algorithm just giving me what they think I want. And I messed around and liked
Mm.
one tweet. I liked one tweet that said, I don't know if we're gonna talk about this. I just thought it was funny. It said Meta says like our info keeps getting leaked in a leaked memo. Like I just thought that was hilarious. And so I liked it. But apparently that account and it just kept giving me political stuff. And then there was a whole bunch of just quote unquote disasters happened this week and yesterday. And so I'm just getting a bunch of conspiracy posts. I'm like, man, let me log out
Right.
of X. I came on here to laugh a
Right.
little bit. This is not what I came for.
Yeah.
But man, like you were saying, though, I just think that there's an industry, and I'm gonna relate it to sports. We talk a lot about sports. There's especially in the past decade, there have been shows and people out there, whole production that have made a lot of money off of talking trash about the same five or six people. LeBron has made a lot of people money. I saw a segment the other day. They said some people gonna lose their jobs when LeBron retires. They ain't gonna have nothing to talk about,
Wow.
and stuff like that. But not just LeBron, but the Cowboys. I
Right.
mean, think about all these popular topics. So what will make politics different? For some reason, I always view politics as like sports, but in a different way. I feel like it kind of evokes the same emotions, like the same way some Eagles and Cowboys fans will get the fist fighting they was on the
Oh
same
man.
bus. You better not let no liberal and no person from the right side. You better not let them get to arguing. Like it's the same type of emotion is what I'm trying to say. And for a team that doesn't necessarily claim, but I don't know. It's a lot, man. My point is though, there's an industry that's really making a lot of money off of weaponizing stories, either for or against a certain party,
Mm.
for Trump and them, for the Republicans, for or against the Democrats. Um, Kamala made a lot of people money, um, good and bad way. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people talk trash about Kamala.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk trash about Trump. People talk trash about Biden. There's a lot of money made about just producing the craziest headlines and stories that you can to draw attention. That's where the money is. That's where a big bag is now. And when Trump, the end of the second presidency, we're gonna have to find a new topic, man. I don't know. They're gonna find something else to scare people with.
Bro, man, man, you just said something. So imagine this. Trump come in first term. Trump, 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 Trump. He leaves. Biden is in. Biden is in office, and we still are hearing about Trump. I said, I'm so sick of hearing about Trump. And I don't hate him like other people do. And I'm like, why aren't we talking about the current administration? Like, why aren't we focusing on what their policies are, what they got going on? The pros, the cons, the good, the bad, everything in between. Why are we talking about a former president? Because it's the redirect. It's like all to your point, but again, they know Trump is a trigger word. Like like just the word itself. It could be like Trump. Trump gave Trump gave charitable donations to Kids on Wheels, Meals on Wheels. I bet it's illegal. I bet it got some. And you're like, what the heck are you talking? Like could be so blinded and caught up in the emotion of all of that is wild. It's absolutely wild to see. And so, to be honest with you, man, it felt like Trump was in. It felt like Trump was in office even when he wasn't in office because his name was so his name was brought up so much. To your point, there was an industry out there keeping you focused on Trump, 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 the evil man, Trump, 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 Trump. You like, oh my God. What does it have
Man,
to do with your specific household? Man, you don't even
making
know
the
this
money.
dude. We don't know any of them. Let's click back first. We don't know any of them. The one thing that is used to piss me off, and it still annoys me. I went from pissed to a just annoyed. You know how like
Right.
mosquito hit your neck and you like ah, and then you just grab it and you do like this.
Right.
It is being so locked, a person being so locked into one particular media channel to where they have the blinders on and they just talk about major blind spots just because you're in the echo chamber of the same conversation. And so you don't even realize all the stories that have been his story or her story has been they just putting that promoting it to you, promoting it to you, promoting it to you. And so then when you go out in the world, you're living his story, but not his story. It's no different from our first segment. It's the same thing. What is your story? How do you control the narrative? And how do you start to control the narrative is I'm gonna tell you one thing that changed for me. When I just started asking questions. And then I started asking questions. Then I'm like, okay, so they're saying this. Why they keep saying this? What does that mean? Then I do like this. I start going,
Hmm.
what? In my book, I'm going,
Right.
okay, but this is the road less travel. But I'm like looking at like an economic book, and I'm like, historically, what has happened when this happens, or what does that mean? So I'm like looking in the book. Sometimes you'll look up some, you'll look online, and then it starts to help you connect the dots, and you like that's not what that mean. Like, and then a headline or something coming out, you like, nah, you're not about to give me. I see what you're doing with the headline to get an emotion. That's your job. I get it. But then I'm like, no, there's more context to that. Like you're just riling people up and you getting people in a rage. It's a lot more context than just that. It's a little bit more nuanced. And so that's it started making me question things like on either side. I'm like, it's a little bit more to the story than that. Nah, you're not sharing the full story. But
Right.
what they know is most people have a short attention span. Most people aren't going to go deep on a conversation, go deep and like really get into the critical thinking. They call it systems thinking. I think it's called systems thinking, where I'm gonna tell you, this really changed the game for me. I say it's a lot of things change the game for me, but it's just my experience and the things I had getting exposure to. Working with engineers really helped me. It was an example that an engineer gave me on how specific that they have to be to write code, but and the way they have to build it out and think through the full problem or whatever. So it said, Ken, explain to me how to create how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm like, what? You just go and make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, right?
Right.
Simple enough. They was like,
Right.
no, you have to, me, I need to walk over to the refrigerator, walk over
Hmm.
to the refrigerator, open the door, reach arm in, grab and and it's so many components and it was a lot in like in that whole story is like, oh, that's how and so they're like very analytical, very like mathematical, matter of fact. And then also one of the things what helped me too was I'm not an engineer and I don't have any interest in that per se. Um, not to go in that depth. I would say things loosely and they didn't mean anything by it. They was like, no, actually, it's this. And so for them, they were trying to like 1 plus 1 equals 2. I was just given a broad stroke of something like, well, actually, technically, and they used to always, and they genuinely didn't mean anything by correcting me. But I learned something in that process of like, there's a level of detail in some of these things that we don't get into a lot of times. And unless you're wired that way or you train yourself to get into the details, you're gonna be doing yourself a disservice.